Organisational Transformation Corporate Delivery Committee. Apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Bentu.
Thank you. I've received none. Item 2, disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest, please. No, thank you. And then we go on to item 3, which are the minutes. The minutes to approve from. Hang on, so on the other side. Right, okay, guys. 28th of February, page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Any matters arising? Somebody like to move? Is it correct and accurate minute?
We can hear you, Chair.
Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me? No.
Yeah.
Oh, we are.
can-
Thank you,
I can-
Leslie.
And I can hear you.
Thanks, Cyril.
Mand.
Thank you.
Mandy, the quality of the camera is abysmal. I don't know why. You're all blurred.
I'm blurred.
Yeah.
There is a problem, Leslie, we know.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, thank you. So, can we have a seconder for the minutes, please? Seconder for the minutes, please. I'll ask once more. A seconder for the minutes from the 28th of February. Thank you, Francesca. Item 4, development of the Guildhall illumination policy. We've got Councillor King with us today, and we've got Emily with us today. So to Emily. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So this session today is about gathering some input and ideas from the committee regarding the development of an illumination policy. There is an early draft policy in Appendix 4 of your papers, which will hopefully help to form the basis of your discussions today. If I could just briefly give an overview of the report, which is found on page 5 of your agenda pack. Section 1 there gives an introduction to this area of work. It is worth noting that the draft policy will relate only to the Guildhall and will exclude other digital assets under council management. Section 2 gives a little bit more background about the increasing number of requests that the council is receiving, touching upon practicalities from a resourcing perspective. Section 3 outlines the current position, whereby officers often receive an email request at very short notice sometimes. Section 3 also draws attention to the challenges faced in dealing with such a broad range of requests from different sources. Section 4 goes on to highlight some key areas that the committee may wish to discuss today, including how best, for example, to resource and manage the policy, notable dates and work around maintaining an appropriate list of dates, and the finer details of any draft policy, for example, colours. Officers suggest, for example, that one colour can be more effective than a mix of colours in certain circumstances, and notice period for requests. And, for example, how will requests qualify for consideration? So I'll be taking notes today from your discussions and feeding that into the work, and any specific questions that arise today, hopefully I can take those away with me as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emily. Are there any questions or observations for Emily, please? Emily, may I ask you, can you hear me? Thank you.
I can, Chair, yes.
So what is the current practice, please, as to how we receive requests and how we actually facilitate the illumination current policy, please?
So the current practice is quite informal. Requests generally come through email to officers, and then they'll discuss the request and make a decision. The Strategic Equalities Board has identified that there is a need for a more formal policy around that process and procedure. So that's the hope here, is to try and formalise that process into something a little bit more structured.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions for him? Councillor Walton. Hiya, Leslie.
Thanks, Chair. Couple of things in the draft policy under section 5, request procedure. It says must be submitted via web form. Is that going to be definite? I mean, is there any reason why somebody can't write it? I mean, I can see that it needs to be written, but I don't quite see why it needs to necessarily be via the internet.
Chair, if I may come back on that, please.
Yes,
Thank you,
please, Emily.
Thank you, Councillor. The web form, again, that's just an early idea about how best to facilitate this process. So any ideas and any discussion today is welcome. That's just an early idea at this point.
Right, okay. I would urge that we also accept requests by letter as long as it's in writing. And the other thing, 6.3, I don't know if I'm being a bit daft, but I don't understand what it means. It says requests will be considered in respect of illuminations lasting for one evening only, unless otherwise stipulated by Swansea Council. I don't understand.
So normally an illumination would happen in an evening period for one evening only, unless there were if there was a certain event or cause that may last more than one evening.
Right, okay, yeah. Actually, the more you said it, the more it sort of clicked a bit more in my brain. Yeah, thanks, Emily. Stop.
Any other questions or observations, please? I'd like to ask you, please, so obviously, you know, quite a list. You know, 12 months of a year is a long, long time in it, you know. So this is a draft policy. So how would we, you know, probably we won't capture it all, but how would we capture this? And if there's something was to come in as a priority for whatever reason or for whatever cause, how would we and could we, if possible, slot it in? So we've got our diary of events. If something came in that was of a major importance or a priority, and there was a demand really to do it or to illuminate for that case, how would we facilitate that, or could we facilitate that if something came in for a special case or a special demand, please?
Certainly. So in section 8 deals with exceptional circumstances. Section 8.1 says where a request does not meet the eligibility criteria, it may be considered an exceptional circumstances. Section 8 goes on then to suggest that it could be considered by officers in consultation with senior leaders, and it also tries to address the example there of a high profile or current affairs issue that may arise but may not necessarily be on our list of dates.
Thank you, Emily. Are there any more questions for Emily, please? Pretty straightforward then, Emily. We all like to see the bright lights, I think. But in all seriousness, I think we need structure, because I think the public appreciate what we're trying to do here. And it's, you know, it's a massive thank you for loads and loads of groups and special events and historical events. So, you know, I think to formulate it and to give it that bit of identity that it deserves, I think we're very much on side. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I think it's very helpful to hear members' comments. I think the reason for bringing a policy forward was just to, as you say, to have something formal in process, so that it wasn't sort of an ad hoc basis like it has been and requests coming in. I think Councillor Walter made a good point around, you know, we could look to have maybe an email address that for requests to come into. I think probably the idea of having the web form was, as you know, on the council's website, there's lots of there's a space, isn't there, where residents can report various things or request things, and I suppose it could be added into that section, so requests can come in that way. But I think there probably should be a process for members to make requests as well. And alongside that, then the Strategic Qualities Board is looking at a sort of a calendar of things that would be a standard thing that the council would mark on an annual basis, so that we have that in place already. So this is really just for those additional things to come into the diary. And I think it's just in terms of having it planned in and make sure we have a process in place. So I really welcome the supportive comments. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. Any more questions? So sorry, Francesca.
No, thank you, Chen. No questions. It was actually quite nice to read quite a light-hearted report for a change instead of more serious stuff. So I think it was really nice to have something light-hearted on the agenda, but equally important to highlight some of the fantastic causes and charities that we have in Swansea. But I think we also need to be mindful, which I think we touched upon, is that we don't want too much on it, because otherwise it can sometimes lose its significance. So it's nice to have a diverse range of charities and awareness days, but equally we don't want to have the whole calendar filled you know, all the time. Like I say, it could lose its significance as well. Thank you, and thank you to Emily for the report as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. So my question to you now is, Emily, obviously this is the draft, so timeline, or how do we progress now?
So, Chair, this will need to go through consultation, and also I'll feed back to the Strategic Equalities Board. If I could just pick up on Councillor O'Brien's question there about the observation rather about the number of illuminations. I think that's a really important issue you touched upon there, because the vast number and the growing number of these illuminations, it can have the effect almost to lose that special effect, if you like. So I wonder how the committee would feel about feeding back on perhaps a suggested number of these per week, per month, or per year. Perhaps members might have some input around how often these illuminations take place.
Might come in there, Emily, sorry. I think, to me, I understand what you're saying, and I'm very much on board with Francesca, but we kind of don't dictate the dates. The dates are there specifically to honour special events and the charities and whatever. So I think it would be quite difficult, you know, and looking at the dates, you know, it's like May is pretty full, June is pretty full, but we've probably got half the year where, you know, it's quite really hit and miss. But I do understand where Francesca is, because we don't want to take, you know, the highlight. We want to keep it a prominent cause or a prominent process. But how would we, you know, kind of dissect it down then, you know, because we don't dictate these days, really. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Chair. And perhaps that's something then that we can feed back to the Strategic Qualities Board for them to discuss in further detail. As you quite rightly say, Chair, that there are lots of dates, and we can't dictate exactly when those illuminations happen, but there may need to be discussions about limiting the number per year, and discussions around choosing certain dates to reflect diversity and equality as well.
Elliot?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I suppose just to give some reassurance as well, I think the list that's in the Appendix B, I think that is a sort of not a exhaustive list of these will be the illuminating dates. It's just as a sort of example. I think what part of the policy will be for the for the board to think about what ones we want to recognise as a council, and align that with requests that come in. So I think I'd welcome, certainly would welcome something to come back around, thinking about how we balance the, what sort of balance we have, and what kind of events we want to mark. So I think I welcome that to come back as well.
Thank you. Any more questions or observations? We'll watch this space then, Emily. Thank you for your attendance. Much appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Did you want to come back, Emily? Sorry.
No, I was perhaps going to just point towards section 7, if I may, Chair, on the eligibility section. Section 7 is found on page 14 of your pack. Section 7 outlines some suggested eligibility criteria which must be met for requests to be considered. Section 7.3 in particular, it sort of tries to outline some examples there, but I wondered if councillors and members might have any suggestions or comments on section 7.3 there.
Any questions or any points for Emily? I think, Emily, when we talk about the eligibility, that is obviously noted there in section 7. And it's quite clear, really, what the eligibility, I can't say it, honest. Well, what the points are. So thank you for highlighting section 7. And we'll feed back as necessary to you. What kind of timeline, please? Oh, Leslie, sorry, Emily.
Sorry.
Leslie wants to come in. Sorry to get across you. Les?
Yeah, just commenting on that section 7. I think it needs a bit more thought. I can't off the top of my head think of anything at the moment, but I would like to spend a bit more time thinking about how to make sure that is covers everybody, doesn't exclude anybody, but also back to Francesca's point, you can't overload the diary too much because it then loses its effect. So I think it needs quite a lot of thought and a lot more work on it to actually get to where we want to be. But I mean, it's a fine start, but I'll certainly have another think. Thanks.
Thank you, Leslie. Emily, you're going to come back in now. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Walton. You're quite right. There's still a lot of work to be done around this, and consultation and feedback. So I think if I'll carry on with this process then, and if any committee members want to get in touch with me separately, and any ideas come to the forefront, please do get in touch and we can weave that in to the process then.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate your attendance here today, and it is lovely to see you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. And then we've got the work plan. So we're coming to the end of the year. The annual report is almost done. It just needs to be updated with the last final meetings. So I'll circulate that before the next meeting. So annual report. Yeah. So that will come, yeah, how many meetings have we got left? One?
One left.
Yeah, one. So we bring the annual report, but I'll circulate to you and then you can circulate it out by say 2 weeks. And then we've got on the work plan, customer contact strategies for 23, and Swansea First Human Rights City. And I think that needs quite a bit of justice. So 25th of April, we've just got that annual report, which I think is quite intense because we've done a lot of work. I think looking back over the last year, we've covered quite a bit. But it's almost done. It's just to add in the last 2 meetings really, and then I'll circulate it and we can have a discussion around it probably on the 25th of April because that's the last meeting of this year. Any questions, guys? Thank you for your attendance. Look after yourselves and I see you on the 25th of April. Take care. Ta-ra, guys.